All right, everyone, welcome back to the Emerging Growth Conference. It's been a great morning. Let's continue. Next up, we have Guanajuato Silver Company, Ltd., aka G Silver. It trades on the OTCQX under the symbol GSVRF and on the TSX under the symbol GSVR, and is an exploration and development company engaged in reactivating past producing silver and gold mines near the city of Guanajuato, Mexico. Please welcome Chairman, President, and CEO James Anderson. Welcome.
Anna, thanks very much for that introduction. I'm going to get right into this. Thanks very much to the Emerging Growth Conferences for inviting us here this morning. I've got about 22 minutes to introduce Guanajuato Silver to everyone out there. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll have a little bit of time for some questions as well. So we are named after the state and city in Mexico called Guanajuato, which has a 480-year mining history, mining silver and gold in that area of Mexico, which is quite remarkable in its own right. Only 60 years after Columbus sailed across the Atlantic, the Spanish were mining high-grade silver and gold in Guanajuato, and it is the site of a great deal of modern gold and silver production and exploration as well. So I will be making a number of forward-looking statements, so please be aware of that as you listen to the presentation. One of the things that kind of sets us apart vis-a-vis a number of other, we'll call them small junior Canadian companies that are interested in the mining industry, and that is we are on a path towards production rather than simply trying to discover or enlarge a silver or gold deposit somewhere on the planet. So we are about 6 months away from production currently, and we are afforded the opportunity to do that by a significant transaction that we made and closed just a few months ago by us buying the El Cubo mine and mill operation from Endeavour Silver. Endeavour is a billion-dollar company listed in Canada, but also listed on the New York Stock Exchange. El Cubo was deemed to be a little bit small for them, but it's just the right size for us to be able to begin production in about 6 months' time and drive the company towards production, profitability, and expansion within the area. So I'm going to be talking about our newly purchased El Cubo assets. I'm going to be talking about our preliminary economic assessment, which was done by an American mining consultancy firm that has about a 100-year history called Bear Dolbear. So we're quite proud to be able to engage Bear Dolbear for that task. And I'm going to be talking about Guanajuato, about some of the mining that takes place there, as well as the interesting location itself. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So in Guanajuato, the city, in the Old Town area, when you walk through, it's kind of like walking through an old town in Spain or in Italy. There's good restaurants, cafes, parks. It's a very pleasant, small city. And because of that, we're able to drive a lot of very highly qualified miners to the area who simply want to live in a city of that quality. And we'll be talking about some of those people that we've brought to the table. Everybody on the conference is pretty much a market player, so I thought we would start just with where we're at in the marketplace. We've got about $100 million Canadian market cap right now. We've got about $7 million in cash in the treasury. We've also announced and will soon be drawing down a silver and gold loan facility in the amount of $7.5 million US dollars. The figures that you see here are all corrected to Canadian dollars, as we are a Canadian company and reporting Canadian dollars. But we'll be drawing that money down likely in July as we spend money quite rapidly on our way to beginning to have material run through our mill in the fourth quarter of this year. So fully funded, we've got about $16 million of available capital, and that should be ample to be able to spend the money revamping, refurbishing the mill that's on site on our property. All of the permits are in place to begin production, and do any development work that we need to begin moving material through that mill. Let me just talk to you about some of our major shareholders. So as part and parcel of the acquisition of El Cubo, Endeavour Silver became our largest single shareholder. Mermacan Capital, which is a a silver and gold equity fund based in Connecticut. It's run by a fellow by the name of Dan Oliver. Dan and I have become friends over the last 6 or 8 years. Myrmikan is one of our largest shareholders, obviously, and Dan has joined our board of directors. So it's Myrmikan has been very, very helpful in sourcing capital as we expand the company. Other G Silver directors own about 7% of the company. VBS is an Australian family office. They are sometimes billed as Australia's wealthiest family. They've also, as part of a larger business enterprise, they also just put a gold mine back into production in Australia. So the folks at VBS have the ability to do a deep dive in terms of research about what we're doing, and they've decided to take a significant equity position in our company. Eric Sprott is a famous Toronto-based mining billionaire. To have Eric on board as a supportive shareholder is also very, very helpful, and tells the investing public that what we're doing holds up to a great deal of scrutiny. So what it is we purchased here a few months ago for $15 million is the El Cubo mine and mill complex. And here you have a pretty good look at it. It's a substantial mill and mining project. So here you see the spot where all of the trucks are going to be dumping all of the material, and all of the mill complex and our office complex. Here you see a picture of the inside of the mill as of November of last year. That's a picture that I took when we were there with our third-party engineers, Bear Dolbear. So it is in excellent shape. This is not a mill rebuild in any shape or form. This is really a maintenance program after the mill has been closed down for about 18 months. So we will need new ball mill linings, hoses, belts, refurbishing different parts of the mill, but all of that is ongoing as we speak. We are ahead of schedule and under budget, and we fully expect to have that mill ready and operational by the fourth quarter. And just to put the purchase price into perspective for all of the viewers out there, so we pay $15 million for it. The last time that this asset changed hands was in 2012. When Endeavour Silver paid $200 million for it. They paid $200 million US dollars in $100 million in cash and $100 million in their shares. And although I think that it's inarguable that Endeavour perhaps paid a little bit too much for the asset, we think it's just as inarguable that we haven't got a fantastic deal out of this. El Cubo is a famous mine in Mexican circles. It's been in production on and off, but mostly on, for about 200 years. So when people are asking me about, so how much material do we think that is still in place at El Cubo, my response generally is, well, it's been in production for 200 years. I think it's likely that we will be able to have production here for another 100 years as we expand and explore 19 different veins in this very large silver and gold epithermal vein system complex. And to that point, the material that we have in sight right now, as defined by Bear Dolbear in their third-party research report and PEA estimates from January, we've got about 7 years of mine life at our proposed 750-ton-a-day operation. And let me digress just for a moment. When Endeavour paid the $200 million for this asset, they spent that money, and then they spent about $30 million additionally building this mill. And what their plan was to make El Cubo into a 1,500-ton-a-day operation. And that sounds great. Bigger is better, right? The only problem is that the mine itself is a very typical central Mexican epithermal system where you have 1 meter to 1.5 meters, so let's call it 3 to 6 feet of vein material. And coming up with 1,500 tons a day of new material in a vein system that looks like that is very, very difficult. So we will operate this differently. We will kind of shrink the throughput through the mill to about 750 tons a day. Moreover, we will use material not only from the El Cubo mine, but also from our El Pinguico mine, which is only about 3.5 miles away in a straight line from this operation. So in so doing, we will be able to shrink the capacity of the mill, but we feel we will be more profitable, we'll be more selective in our mining techniques, and for a company of our size, we think that's going to be very effective. So not only did we buy the mill and the mine and the resource for $15 million, the other thing that G Silver did was to acquire Endeavour's very large land package of mining claims in this area. And again, this is a 480-year mining camp. There will be lots and lots and lots of silver and gold discovered in this area over the next number of years. Having all of these blue claims added to the red claims that we started with, that makes G Silver the second largest landholder in the Guanajuato area of mining claims. The first is Fresnillo, which is a Mexican company listed on the London Stock Exchange with a £9 billion market cap, so maybe a $12 billion market cap. And really, that's the company that we want to emulate. A company that's fully focused in Mexico. Fresnillo is the world's largest silver producer, and we would like to try to emulate them in the months and years to come. So over to our other project, which, as I mentioned, just about 3.5 miles. It's about 5 kilometers in a straight line from El Cubo, and that project is called Pinguico. Now, Pinguico is an exploration project. But it has some unique qualities to it, including and especially 2 stockpiles of material, one that's on surface and one that's underground, which are material that's left over from mining that took place on this property about 110 years ago. And why that's unique and interesting and very, very helpful for us is that material is readily available for the mill in the fall. So not only do we have some low-hanging fruit at El Cubo, we've got some very low-hanging fruit at Pinguico in order to have ample feed as we restart the mill and get mining within the area. So when you look at the type of bottlenecks that a startup mining company can have, is the mill ready to go? Yes, it is. Do we have, and fully built, do we have all of our permits in place? Yes, we do. And do we have ample material, ample tonnage to be able to start that mill and have, let's say, at least 2 or 3 years worth of known material where we know exactly where we're going? And the short answer is yes. Now, over to Pinguico as an exploration project. Pinguico has a fascinating, unique history. So in 1906, there were 2 mining companies. One was a British company and one was an American company, and they were ostensibly mining 2 halves of the same epithermal system here in Guanajuato. In 1906, they merged the companies, and that corporate entity became listed on the New York Stock Exchange as the Pinguico Mines Company. And you can see this black and white choo-choo train image that I've got proudly on our slide deck. That is an image that I stole from the 1909 annual report of the Pinguico Mines Company of New York City. So we think that's pretty cool. In its day, it was an extraordinarily high-grade mine. It was the highest grade mine in the entire Guanajuato region at that time. They paid ample dividends to shareholders at that time. And that, again, is something that we want to emulate. You can see a modern image from a different angle where all of this waste material, which they brought up from the mine, is here. That waste material sits on surface right here today. But although it was waste 110 years ago, it has gold and silver in it. And we can extract that material today and make good money out of it. Here you can see a computer-generated image of the surface material, but also an underground stockpile material. The underground stockpile was never waste. It was designed as a low-grade stockpile by the miners 110 years ago. The only trick is that their idea of low-grade and ours is totally different. And this material grades about 300 grams of silver equivalent per ton, which we can make a lot of money on and be very profitable on. The other thing about that stockpile material, we don't have to find it or mine it or blast it. It sits blasted at the bottom of an open stope. We simply have to move it to surface safely, and safely is a consideration. This mine is about 110 years old, and the infrastructure, exhibits that. El Cubo, on the other hand, is a modern facility. And when I was there about 3 weeks ago, on several occasions, we took pickup trucks into the portal of the mine and drove 25 minutes within the mine before we got to the two faces and stopes where we will be mining just in the next few months. So in terms of Pinguico as an exploration asset, a number of months ago, what we did some channel sampling, which is simply geologists taking chisels and hammers and taking samples from exposed vein material along this old mine. The grade of this mine is exceptional, and we continue to have excellent surprises along the way. After doing that, we embarked on the project's first drilling campaign ever. And we announced our first drill results towards the 1st of May, and we'll be announcing other drill results here within just the next 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously, with a first drill program, you're going to have some hits and misses as you discover what is there. It is a narrow vein system, as all of the mining is in the Guanajuato area, but the grade, again, is exceptional with a number of 300 to 900 gram silver equivalent intervals within this system. So drilling is ongoing today, and again, as we continue the discovery process, we're going to have some good surprises and some bad surprises, but it's a very exciting project to be drilling into at this time. So with this style of mining company, most investors want to be able to see some kind of big blue sky possibility and event on the horizon, and we can deliver that. And I want to explain to the audience here this morning what that looks like from a Guanajuato standpoint. So this is a cross section of the El Pinguico project, about 10 kilometers to the north of us. So we'll call it 7 miles. There is a world famous mine called Valenciana. Valenciana has been in production for the better part of 400 years. In the 1700s, Valenciana was producing somewhere between 40 and 60% of the entire world's silver. And that was after it had been in production for about 100 years. So they were producing a relatively narrow but high-grade vein, not unlike Pinguico. They were mining lower and lower and lower in the system until they came upon the Veta Madre, or mother vein. And at that time, the vein itself expanded to be 50 to 100 meters wide, and they were mining, as described in the archaic literature, roomfuls of ruby silver. So that's pretty cool. That's a project or a mine that still is mining today. There's a Canadian company called Great Panther that still takes about 100 tons of material out of it daily. So obviously the production has shrunk. But that setup exhibits itself right here on our property. So immediately adjacent to us, Veta Madre was mined by Fresnillo from 1972 until 2002. And in 2002, we had $4 silver. That facilitated the closing of the mine at that time. But this 25-mile long structure is a very powerful regional fault structure that has been intruded by an extraordinarily long-lived epithermal system. Even the mining engineers and geologists 100 years ago, they wrote about the possibilities of that structure crossing the Pinguico claim boundary at depth. So do I think that 25-mile long structure crosses our claim boundary? I do. What happens when it intercepts with our narrow but very high-grade Pinguico system? That is a really cool drill target, and we will be drilling that in the months ahead. Success there will have a profound effect on the value of our company. So let me move forward quickly, and just before I entertain some questions, we'll just talk quickly about just a couple of component parts of the team that are involved in moving this project and series of projects back into production. Perhaps first and foremost is Ramon Davila. Ramon just joined our board about 3 months ago. Ramon has, in my estimation, the best CV in Mexican mining. For 10 years, Ramon was on the board of directors and was the chief operating officer of First Majestic at a time when First Majestic, which is a $5 billion silver miner, almost exclusively, until recently, exclusively involved in Mexican mining. But Ramon was the chief operating officer, rather, from a time when that company went from zero production to 12 million ounces of silver production per year. He took the company from 2 employees to 4,000 employees. And having Ramon, he then in 2016 went on to a 4-year career in politics. He was the economy minister for the state of Durango in Mexico. Last June, he resigned from that post. And Ramon and I like to joke that any miner that is still sane after 4 years in politics should get back into the mining business, and that's what Ramon has done. Hernan Dorado is our chief operating officer at Guanajuato Silver. Hernan and his father Gerardo are a father and son mining engineering team. They are embedded in our company, pardon me, and they are the driving force. They are my business partners in Mexico. They're the driving force to move this company forward. So I could certainly talk about the other people on our board and the mostly Mexican and mostly folks from Guanajuato, people who we've driven towards managerial roles within the company. But I think we're best probably at this time to field some questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan and Anna. And if there's any questions out there, I'm happy to answer them.
Great presentation. I love so much of that history there. Thank you so much, James. Yes, we do have a lot of questions, probably too many in our 5 minutes left, but we will send these to you to make sure that you can answer them on your own time. So,
okay, very good.
So how quickly will the company be producing silver and gold?
Right. And again, this really sets us apart from so many of the other the Canadian listed junior miners, where people brag about being, going towards production in 3 years or 5 years. We will be putting material through that mill in the fourth quarter. And when I was in Guanajuato 3 weeks ago, every morning I would ask the team, is that real? Are we going to get there? Are we doing that? And the answer always back was, yes, James, yes. That's a real thing. So I'm pretty confident about that.
So are there other opportunities for the company to expand in Mexico and in Guanajuato in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first time that I went to Guanajuato, one of the things that I was really impressed with and curious with, there were 4 mills that were operating within about a 20-mile radius of the city, but not one of them was actually operating at full capacity. And so my firm belief then, and it's been reinforced, throughout several years, is that Guanajuato is a place that's ripe for consolidation within the mining business. And we've named our company Guanajuato for a number of reasons, but that is one of them. We think that we can be one of the moving forces, one of the driving forces of consolidation within the mining industry in this area.
James, when will you have additional exploration drill results?
We should. There have been some delays. All of the labs, all of the assay labs in North America are slow. A lot of that, was based on COVID. That's still a bit of an issue, and they're backed up. And frankly, there was, some delays internally, but we should have additional drilling results and other exploration results for the market within the next, 3 weeks or so.
So what's your estimated time frame to ramp up to 750 tons a day?
It'll be fast. Depending on when exactly we start moving material through the mill. Let's call it October just for this discussion. It will only take about 30 days for us to be moving, to begin with 300, 400, but move fairly quickly up to 750 tons a day through the mill. And what we will do is we'll use some of the lower grade surface stockpile material at El Pinguico to recalibrate the mill. Usually you start off with maybe 40 or 50% recoveries when you're restarting a mill this way. And as we fine tune exactly what we're doing in terms of crushing and throughput, we fully anticipate that we'll be getting up into the 80% recovery range.
Great. So someone says, congratulations on the acquisition of the mine. How long will it take to refit it and get it up and running? And what is the cost to refit it?
Yeah, right. Okay, so great points. Again, by the fourth quarter of this year, we will be operational. There's barring some cataclysmic event, there's just no reason why we shouldn't be. That is our target, and that's what we continue to move towards. Regarding the costs, the actual mill refurbishment will only cost about $2.5 million. We do have to spend a number of other millions of dollars in development work at El Cubo. A lot of the material that we know exists from the Bear to Bear study, perhaps requires 50 meters of additional development work. And by that, I mean putting in a 4 meter by 4 meter drive, maybe for 50 or 100 meters, in order to access a new stope. And that is development work that we don't need to do to start, but we will need to do to have material in front of us, let's say in the spring and summer of next year. So when you're in the mining business, you have to constantly be thinking about what's going to be happening next. So by the time we hit cash flow, we anticipate that we will spend about $8 to $10 million on that, and we'll still have ample cash reserves as we move into cash flow.
Wonderful. James, viewer said, fantastic presentation, and they would like to know if you have a personal social media page that can be followed.
I don't use it very often. Frankly, the whole social media world frightens me just a little bit. Most of the social media stuff that we do internally and through our social media through Guanajuato Silver.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We have a bunch more questions that we're going to send directly to you so you can answer, but I certainly hope you join us again on the conference, because this is a fascinating venture you're getting into. So thank you so much for your time, James.
Thanks very much, Anna. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will certainly be back and give you an update in a few months.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. Remember, you're going to see a black screen for a quick moment as we transition to our next presenter, but don't go away because we're coming right back.